Because I've got mine too, you know. These are two parents. Even though they're great. I was trying to think what her name was, and I thought it was Sharon. And I thought, no, it can't be Sharon. He just knows I'm going to press the box. Yeah, but you know what? What is it about the young kids? They don't want to do that. I said to them too. I said, when I'm going to die, nobody's going to tell you everything. But my friend and I, we go together, we buy a flower, we go once a week and we water them, and she says, you know, she says, who's going to do that? She has a daughter, and after her father's grave, she died. Her son died from Indiana. You know, but a lot of young kids don't want to cope with it. They don't. I don't know what it is. Well, that's what, you know, we were doing the wife and fallen, because I got fallen over and kids would have at the summit, you know. I said, Joel, you need any kids to cut grass? Well, they couldn't cut grass. They could raise their age, and I said, well, geez, Paul cut grass at home, because I know what the age is. I said, 18 and I'm like, hey, we're not going to be fine, all right? And okay, I know. That Paul would work for long, but they great leader. They had a transfer there one time. And a couple of friends with all the younger kids, and it was somebody that was transferred. I had Potter's deal. This lady was real poor, and she took in this 12. Yeah, they already had it for 20 years. And this boy, this lady was real poor, and she gave him a home, and I don't know what his life was like. And when she died, and then buried in Potter's field, and he always swore when he grew up to make money, he would buy her a clock and a sister. And so after 20 years, his boy, they shut up thinking it was a body transfer. I did, when I got into the room, you didn't know which way. Paul was down there, and Potter's field was that kind of building. He started with this thing, and I just remember to Michael. Finally, and I came over to Paul, and bugs and after flies. Oh, I know what's wrong with Michael. He just lay down the album down. Yeah, I don't I thought they did.
Yeah, because they couldn't help all of it.
Oh, I told you.
We had a couple old over here.
This is all business. So we went there. Yeah, I was eating. I was taking down the oh, Joe, I called the lady. No, that was pretty bad.
The only thing is when it burns
and Paul,
you have to watch.
No, it's like Lynn, because you could see where the, you know, the knee joint was or somewhere. And a couple of joints, they got real pale. My teeth said, Joe, I'm going to go and change the sprinklers and go to the water because I don't think you'll do it.
You had to be there to witness?
No, I just went to the
So we knew that was going to be.
And I knew another transfer they had.
Well, that didn't bother me.
But you know what?
If it was probably my own, it was.
When Paul got under and he got the pitchfork, he got the part of the hand. Well, they had rolled off. And I was the lady's name was Julia Minion. And I said, name always Julia Minion. I always thought it was Indian. I thought it was the Indian name. But when the head came off, this was all buried, you know. It looked like brown hair right around here. You know, all this was gone. And it looked just like the same actually. I mean, we just had one. And then I looked at she had a red dress on. You
saw that?
Yeah.
The one with the maid buried 20 years.
This wasn't possible. It wasn't. You know what Joe said? It might have been one of these county coffins. But you're still a bit, you know how they had this red velvet, and of course all the wood was proof, and then this red, that was kind of preserved, and I suppose it was planted on.
But all the smells they get how long it gets enough fish.
Oh, yeah.
And,
We got the machine out there. Yeah, show some movies pretty soon, yeah.
The caretaker was there. But if they have any other transfers, I don't know who buried this undertaker probably was dead. And now lots of times they had funerals during the winter, and they were in cold ferries. So either Chuck or Paul's got to go there when they take these bodies out of cold ferries and bring them down. So they have to be there for that. But, then that night, I came home and I didn't know what this lady looked like, but all I could see was that head with that little blonde hair. And I said, mark hers for her, that she wouldn't come and cushion to me at night.
That was a skull.
Yeah, but I didn't ever see the bones or anything. And then the breastbone, where the
Spend money on
red material from the coffin. And then Alice, Eddie was generous because we were talking about that, and yes, Michael was about 5 years old. And he said, would you like to see Daddy? I thought that Alice said, no, I don't think so. I wouldn't either. She said, I would want to see him in the week. And after 2 years, you know,
I know
I don't know how
my
much
mother died, she was 60. I heard her say, see now,
what?
you're the youngest at that
How old were you when your mother died?
Yeah, see now. Yeah, the word in the head, see now.
That was young. Did you realize?
Well, you see, everything happened so fast. Annie got the stroke.
Yeah.
Upstairs.
Yeah.
And she, no, he died. She got the stroke. She went out of coma. And the week after that, she died. So we had 2 funerals in a week.
Yeah.
See ya, she says, yeah, my kid.
She was in coma.
Yeah, but you're always thinking about it.
How old was she?
So now,
55.
Oh my God, was that
go back to your cup file.
That was young.
High blood pressure. You know, those days, there was
nothing, no, they didn't.
She had a cerebral hemorrhage.
Oh.
And of course, the doctors got together, you know, those days.
They
She was 59 years old. Every visitor, I can just see that she was dripping into her hand. It was just sickening. I used to read you those days.
A girl or somebody that typed that.
She got a blood pressure. She already had the stroke.
They did what?
In a coma.
When they puncture and they run the pants, she's going to take my blood off, maybe. Too much blood, that's caused. You know what? It's too thick. Cerebral hemorrhage.
Yeah, and the blood pressure. Yeah.
To learn the,
Well, we got computer stuff. And,
But did she stay in a coma? Yeah. How many days?
3 days.
No, that was terrible. And on top of it all, Mr. Janicki was away. I don't know where, I can remember. Undertaker's convention or something. And who was it mortuary? No, we had to go to my place. But who was it now?
Larson, Bradford, there was a Bradford, Bradford and Larson. No, then there was Clayton. No, Clayton was after. Yeah, and then after Johnson.
Linway, I remember there was a good friend.
LaValle. The first one before Johnson. Way downtown. There was a Bird. We don't know him, but there was a Bird too.
Way back in 1921.
I don't know.
But anyway, I don't know where your friend is.
Huh? Who was the Janet? Who was the Undertaker?
Janicki.
When your mother died.
Yeah.
Who was that? Janicki was out of town. They had to call another one. Who was the Undertaker?
We called Cruz. We called Cruz.
Yeah, but he was out of town.
And he was out of town, and we talked to Joe talked to Mrs. Janicki. But who was the Undertaker downtown?
Who was the Undertaker downtown? You don't remember? Lundquist. Oh, yeah.
Bradford.
And LaValle was before Bradford.
Because Mrs. Janicki said, well, he's becoming a Christian.
Yeah.
They were all come on, what is he going to do? I think maybe together they decided to do Cruz. We never had.
Oh, my mother. My mom was so mad when my grandma died. Yeah, but yeah, when my Uncle Tony died, they had to.
Young,
So when my grandma died, Grandpa thought, well, every Polish undertaker, and they called my cruise, and my mother was so mad.
And I was chummy with Rosa. And Clara was chummy with you know, we were all friends. So that's when we felt so bad. And of course, then Joe went back and he said, well, when my father wants a Polish woman on that is, so he went to cruise.
Isn't it funny how they all called?
And then that's so then when my mother died, we had the same one.
But I don't do that.
See, I know my mother, when my grandma died, he didn't have to tell me.
No.
He said,
No,
mother,
because I have the information.
he told me, he said he could get her teacher and I'll see her back for John.
Oh, they do a lot.
I know, but I mean, why? Yeah, but they don't do that now. No. They don't do that now.
You know, and then.
These turkey muffled cotton. Well, she's
Yeah, I mean, you know, we know they don't feel anything, but why tell them?
much of it, the only undertaker we had.
and I felt better. No, we had cruise too.
They had proof.
But there are various.
When Stanley died, and then you know, it seems to me like cruise was related.
You know what you want?
Stanley started a family or something. Oh, I remember.
You want water, Ben?
And then when my mother died, they said, well, they have them for one, they have them for two. And I was 13 years old.
You want water? Here, Ben, you want water. You're a real piece of water.
Oh, I didn't even miss it.
Yeah. That's all.
Sometimes he gets this in his mouth and brings the water.
Is that right?
Yeah.
He brings his cup for water.
Yeah.
Playing with that girl.
Pretty smart dog, huh?
She brings a cup of water?
Yeah, not that cup, but it's kind of hard for him to grab onto it. You hear the rattle and you go look there and he's trying to.
Right, and
I'm called it. Here.
You were eating that salty chicken.
Oh, my.
But a couple times now, Paul had to go pick up bodies in Traverse City, and I was surprised when they told me that Bob was with him. I thought, my God, but he's got to get used to it. Then after a while he'd say, if somebody else ain't there, you want to go, you want to Traverse City, I'll go with you, you know. You got to get used to that. I said, Bob, maybe I could get you a job that you could tend to the doors or something like that. Oh, I wouldn't want that, he said. I'll go with him. You got to always have two, you know, to carry that. But he's got to be out. That doesn't bother me. Eddie came home and he said, cold. This was in the summertime. I was, no more. He gets him sick. He worked that night and then he stopped in. I don't know where he
Want more water?
I need a hand, will you help me? So, all, he paid Eddie $15. All Eddie had to do is strap the person's leg and walk. He didn't know what kind of job he had, so he came home. Well, we trained him with, I'd rather work 8 hours at a place for $50 in that couple minutes. It bothers him. We would never, you know, when we go, we put our kids down and they have Memorial Day parade. Well, I can see these guys were in service late, I can remember buddies that were still reading. But he said go to the cemetery. I'd take him home and I'd go with Alice. He would never, or even a funeral home, unless, and my mom was charged safe. It's the living you gotta be afraid of, not the dead.
That's right.
Well, paranoid like that. Yeah. You always gotta be afraid of the living, not the dead. Karen was Cyrus, that neighbor, when he got here, the came over, Susie Kukla, she used to come over, and her girl was a little older than Karen, and Alice and Eddie were doctors, and they used to play around together. Well, she worked in a tavern, and she was shot. They never found out, that's how many years ago, they didn't find out. No, I got that paper home. Is it? Because way before I was married, I believe it was it? Or maybe 6th. November, leaving your hand November. I got what's in my card. Well, anyway, and We went down there when we found out about it. This happened at 2 o'clock early Sunday morning. She was ready to close.
Yeah, the dog only walks while you're walking.
Yes, because
And you stop, the
I
dog
just
stays.
got shot her gate from the front because there were 2 feet in it. And if she got shot in the back, the whole front would have been, you know.
Who did the dog?
My neighbor.
Nobody got through.
My neighbor.
You didn't even go to my day home. How long ago?
Alice was out here. Well, she was over in Sharon, yeah. Yeah, but Alice, yeah, she was, yeah, way before I got
He
married.
found her, he gave some brief houses.
She went into it, I lived across the street, and, he says, oh, there's a light on there yet, maybe, Alina didn't close up yet, and I'll go and put one of these people in the machine, and he was the one that found her, or nobody was there. And she locked her down up in the bathroom, and whoever came in, they figured she must know who it was, because we didn't think about this until when she was laid out. She was kind of a big girl, and we said, she just was kind of tight and happened. My God, looked up, we laughed her, and we said, well, they had figured. Well, did you notice that there, then the transfer, their side, they lay like this, and we
The rigor mortis.
yeah, and at 3 o'clock that afternoon, they called Chuck and said, I didn't get the body. And he said, he got swallowed. And that's how she was laying in the coffin for so 3 or 6 hours. And that's why we said she looked so crowded in there. Well, otherwise she would have like this. And Karen, Alice said, well, come on now, we gotta go. So Karen said, okay, we'll go tomorrow. Alice said, well, it's easier today because tomorrow, you know, everybody's gonna be there, it's gonna be worse. So, okay, Karen's gonna go. Well, let's go take our food up to the hall first.
Oh,
And we said, okay, we took the food up.
but
And
one
she would make us sleep up in Alice. They said, Karen, you don't wanna go in the kitchen. Well, I wanna go in, I gotta go for Tuesday. I wanna go in, but I don't want to. But she went, and Tuesday came and did her sister's house. She said, Karen, I know how hard it was for you. And she said, I really appreciate that. But then after that, she kinda like broke the ice with her. You know. We always wondered, we were kind of scared, but I guess we were over. So tell her, Betty, Alice, and I, we said, now, I prefer you guys, but it's your turn now to take the lead.
Collars too.
Well, I go on now, it's just about it.
Never was solved, huh?
And then there was a bunch of Hill missing, and they're trying to link these two together. Last time they saw him was, he was in a cabin with some Mexicans, and he disappeared. The Jeep and everything, the Jeep and everything, they left all over. Then that's when they were talking about all these UFOs, and they said he must have been taken up by the UFOs, you know, and all that. Yeah, they had a big write-up.
I don't believe in that.
That one lady, wrote all about that, because she had a place down between 11 and 10 but he worked there, took care of the ground. The fishers from,
Well, I don't know, I tried it.
you know, rich people, and they had a big article in the paper, and just last year they had something, whoever knows, you know, so they could get this boy's body, and bury him, because nobody else, but how did they teach this? Never read it, yeah, it's all coming, like they told Linda.
But they got some other things that you
They were going all around.
But my mom said,
Touch and say,
they probably covered up and come out someday.
It'll come out.
It'll come out someday.
It could have bothered somebody's conscience.
Yeah.
Didn't they have something in this,
He'd be buried somewhere.
no, but I mean, Linda.
Oh.
I never found out who did that. Then they had something in the paper there, not too long after, I never found out. And then the, Bill Rabbitt, he was a deacon at our place, and he came and gave away to us, and he was wonderful. He was a deacon, he used to go to the Good Shepherd Church, and all loved him, they were giving him natural born deacon. And his daughter and everybody was the prayer, for Linda, and the family, and whoever did this to her. I mean, really, we should be praying for this man, whoever did it.
Well, that's what they say, yeah. Pray for your animals.
No, this was in November.
But then when they were part of
Really
our
cold.
Tuesday,
Kind of cold.
oh, I hope it never comes up because we're going to have to go through the same thing again. And she said this girl was passing through Doris Young, and they lost her diet. And she had a work, they celebrated,
What kind of tobacco does he chew?
Curly. They celebrated, she only can buy that at Kroger. Oh, she said, quiet, she said, the monkey pie. And she thought, I'm still a little, she pie, otherwise I'm telling her, you know, you gotta go down there real fast. She said, I'm glad I never did that. I never thought to do that. You can go.
Who else? Some other bill? Oh, Liechtenstein, I think. They were.
This baby gets rice chewed on for this time?
I don't know. Hope so.
Look at the time, it's 10 o'clock.
Well, you have to go. See, then they showed her, they gave it to you, feel nice. I don't know, they got, all these bands have one year.
Yeah.
You know what, at one time when Clarence finally got up in the morning, and he sits in his chair and he puts through the bathroom and says, some of them, we were running over power. That was when he got that stomach, found him laying on the floor. And, he was laying behind the door by himself. Well, he chucked it through the bathroom, his mouth was one night. But this lady, he probably, I don't know if he got sick to his stomach or what, but he just passed out like that. It was early in the morning.
I like that going too.
But he did not want to, he said, yeah, Paul is right, that's the only thing. But the other can't be doing him harm because, so many years, he's been doing that, really.
No, I like to look at
What he needs is
whatever they got,
the gee, you don't have to go to bed, you know, not take it off all the time.
Yeah.
Same as the doctor.
Oh, boy, problems.
No, I think I read somewhere there was a.
They gotta know that stuff before they get married.
And you know, like him, another guy, this is easy, I think, geez, you know, I don't know, I'm real tight, I'll probably go to bed now. Maybe half an hour out the door. That would bother me, I could fall asleep because I figure I'll probably fall asleep, that doesn't bother me. I go to bed, I fall asleep, but then I can move my bedroom, because when he sleeps, I guess so. They don't, they don't ever hear it, I don't hear nothing else. No, I gotta go to my bed. That's what we said. Oh, gotta go right away. Doctor, the same way. Who was it on the radio? Oh, this is something one time. Bob was doing, I guess. He left at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
And,
He's on our radio twice. I think.
He got a call.
Every time it all depends, I think he's on all.
He's a quiet call. Oh, good.
It's just far talking. I don't like that. We got television too, and it's the same thing.
Yeah, they gotta go right away.
In a paper.
Something about this. And then they usually work on it right away, no matter what time you pick it up. Some of them pretty cold storage, you know.
Well, I can get the blood out of them.
I don't know.
I just wouldn't do that, actually, some of them.
And he was in,
They got cold storage
he
too?
was in the, movie.
No, I don't think so. I imagine they must have something. They don't, I don't know, they work on them, I would. Yeah.
I don't know,
Ooh, but that one time, oh man, they had second funeral with their own roof and all was
Silver thing, you know.
What is money for her?
$5.
Mr. Janet, they used to get $100 a week, that was fine. Raised all those kids, and when he died,
boy, Jack could not have Jack had a good and Jack,
he didn't know how to manage.
He had a nice personality, but we Jack Gamble there.
Who is that?
Jack Kennedy.
Oh.
Boy, they only had one boy.
He knows 8, I know, he only been there for 3. That was Clara's son.
That was her brother.
That's her brother?
Yeah, the younger son.
He was second oldest, and he was second youngest. Only boy they had.
Or did he take
the
over?
oldest? Yeah, he took over. Who's the oldest of Janeki?
Irene.
Oh, Irene is?
Yeah.
And you should see what she does here. She goes and speaks at all these art shows and does all this art, China wear and everything. She's got these others, right? Ceramics. She does all this and speaks at different clubs.
Does she still live over there in Jamaica out there?
Oh, does she?
She's the oldest. She said, I don't know how old would she be? She older than you?
Oh, she's older than Clara. Older than Ada. Ada was 80.
She doesn't look it,
She'd
Mike.
be 82.
She's about 83.
She doesn't look it. She comes to church all the time. Irene, I can see her parking her car and she comes in to pray. She don't come to mass, but she comes after.
She don't come to mass.
Well, not that early, but I see her come into church and during the week, parks her car there, you know, comes into church to pray.
I think she brought like anytime.
She was married to Ben and all that.
Yeah, to know that.
Second one.
Yeah.
The first one was not.
Oh, I didn't even know she was married before.
Who's the Genova?
Jacobian.
Genovia?
Muskegon, they lived in Muskegon.
How do you spell that?
Janowiak.
Genovia.
I know it.
Janovac.
Yeah.
Genovia.
Her first husband, oh,
You see now that Esther Coleman's in the hospital, that's another girl.
yeah.
She jumped around with Isabel.
Yeah.
She must be in her 80s.
Well, she was just about the 80s.
Yeah.
I remember 83, 82, you said you saw her.
She was born in 1898. She'd be 82 then.
Yeah.
Well, then she made about 80, yeah.
And so she's 80.
And, because Isabel goes all over with her, she drives her shopping and that. But I see she was admitted to the hospital.
She must have been pretty bad.
Yeah, but I think she had less racing.
And then there's Eleanor, she was there too.
Who?
Eleanor.
Yeah, Eleanor. You know, I never knew that Eleanor Morris, she married a Morrison. And she had, when nobody ever knew about it. Well, my girlfriend, Pat Quinn's got one, and she used to be in a home in Mount Pleasant. And I don't know where this boy was. And now they've got a home, like past Scottsville, that people take care of her. And so she's over there. And then it was only about maybe not even a year that she brought that boy here, and that boy's in his home. In Scottsville. Nobody ever knew she had a boy like that.
I did.
He must be, way in the 40s or 50s.
Oh, yeah. Then married Charlie.
Yeah. She died.
And then Rosella, the one that I...
Yeah, but there's a Margaret, too.
Well, she's was then. There's a Bernadine. She
Bernadine, yeah, Christville.
And then Margaret
Leona.
and Leona.
Leona's the youngest.
We're talking about the kids.
When I
Yeah, if anybody wants to, put in there. Put in a,
Well, how do you tell us what you know about it?
Okay, let's put it.
Oh, what is right back? Right back in here, huh?
Yeah.
And then we can put that
She told me about that.
Well,
I checked on the seal. No time.
I read, you didn't recognize her. Who? Rosella.
No, she
She was
didn't.
home from church and she said, where did Rosella? And I picked up my Aunt Mary and Isabel and she said, well, Rosella was in church. And as we went, we could see her walking. I said, well, I'll turn around and come around the block. And we could see her right by her house. So then, we had a nice visit with her.
She looks good. She's dressed nice. Her husband's got leg trouble. You know, you don't want to go anywhere. She wrote and told me, she said she wants to go to Harvard. And after I told her I went there, she said, well, she admired me for going, and she said she's going to go to the theater. Because Ray can't go with his legs.
And she was telling us that she told a lot of stories for the grandchildren. She said, I don't buy toys anymore. She said, so all year, she says, I sold the different things to them, and stuff and then give it to them for Christmas.
She goes to Garden Angel.
Yeah. They belonged there, but she was Arthur. Because she said her daughter was down there, we were going to go for dinner. So they went to our church for 4:30, because she said Garden Angel had church at 5:30.
Yeah, then the Bernadine had that daughter, you know.
Now who was first? Oh, Bernadine married to Christchurch.
Yeah. It's not Franco's son.
Oh, yeah?
The daughter.
Oh, I didn't know.
That girl was born way back in 1932, so that girl's pretty.
Who, Bernadine?
Bernadine's got a daughter.
By Chester Miller.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute, wait.
That, the pharmacist.
Yeah.
It's on that fur.
I know. That was not so funny.
Bernine's oldest daughter. I never did that. Sister adopted her.
Yeah.
And then sister adopted her.
Bernadine and Ada were the prettiest girls of all. Yeah, I think Bernadine and Ada were the prettiest.
I don't remember.
How many were there?
9.
Nine?
Yeah.
A little.
Yeah, last one was a boy, and he was,
And when
he wanted him to get the business.
I don't know where he died, but
He gambled his money.
yeah, he'd come down and visit parents all the time, you know. And then he said something about these peasants. And the parents said, well, God darn it, he says, you're always talking about these peasants, then why do you come back to Nancy? To visit my good friends like you, he said. But he had such a line, but I mean, he had a nice personality. And we went down to see him, and all his sisters came, and his wife didn't come. But I mean, she...
They're clean. I didn't know how clean.
He used to go down and sing his superstar.
In person,
And he could have had a gold mine there. And we went to see him, and he...
What did he gamble on?
Horses and,
He played cards. He played cards.
But they said his father was to blame. His father was and even when he went to service, because I remember that one time, Father Ben said, we were setting up this big board, you know, in back of the church, all the boys, they were in service. And we were putting all the names there, and the people were supposed to let us know who's best come there, when their fathers in service, give us a name, and we'll put them up there. So we didn't know, you know, if he was a private or sergeant or something. So Father said, call my students, Michael Corbin. And I said, Mr. Ginetti, I said, this is taking off and change over the dresser, and I said, just setting up this thing with all the service, and I said, could you tell me what Jack is in, you know, is he sergeant or corporal? Jack? Sergeant? Corporal? Well, private. And he was real respectable. But they said it was the father's fault. He used to play cards with all the older men. And he let Jack sit in that day.
I was wondering who that was.
Because I let Jack sit in and gamble with him, and that got him Jack's blood.
I didn't know when Jackson,
Well, no, I used to just play cards amongst himself, but then Jack would always sit in on it. Well, the old man probably knew how to handle his money, but Jack just went crazy. His kids were starving, and he would come down to a tavern with a big wallet, you know, full of
have your septic tank.
silver dollars, and pass them out.
Well, what if it's just like in the winter in both
He was so hard. That's why he didn't have it.
He was drunk. I think they only last for 5 years. Then they get plugged up. I don't know. He never got his.
He sent him over for care. He owed all the undertakers, then he sent
I don't know.
down to the Valley Farm.
No, not that. They have to have the people.
Yeah,
But they had it for family houses. I'm like, such a trailer.
for the other ones.
I'll have to check.
And we had people would come in, they want to know when masters were going to be said. They offered masters, you know, for so and so. So we look it up and we say, you know, it's terrible. Well, we didn't take care of it. We gave the money to Jack Janicki. Jack never even gave us the money for the masters. Well, when anybody dies, they take the money down there, and Jack is supposed to bring up the one pot, and then that I'm like, and he says, if anybody has anything to do, he says,
Like what?
No, they never even went.
open up the grave. The only thing Jack really does is involvement, because people gave the money and we never got it. And a lot of them, they pay for the bills, you know, for cemetery, we pay our bills, open up the grave. Well, that was paid. And I said, well, gee, when do you pay? Do you have a receipt? Well, you pay that to Jack Janicki. I said, well, we never got it. Lots that people paid them for, we never got the money, so we couldn't do anything about it.
What they do, people are the losers.
Well, no, they came and showed us they had a receipt, and we sent bills to Jack Janicki, but we never collected the money.
Well, then what you do about it?
Well, what could we do? They paid Jack Janicki, we couldn't get it
You
out of
couldn't get
Jack.
the money out?
So now they pay everything now, like Chuck Herbert, we don't even have to worry. They buy lots, all Chuck would have to do is pay us for the opening of the grave and the funeral man. He pays for the lots and everything, he doesn't have the people buried, and he's got a bill, he's got a check for it. And even people go down there and leave money, you know, for masses, Chuck says they're right up there. I know, that's just a businessman. He takes care of everything. He Yeah, Jack just got this extra money, and then the people would come, they'd see Jack, and he'd see the boss, and he'd run around, and he'd go to Jack. Well, Jack is at the people, well, she'd be there, Jack would be there, Jack would be there.
She went back to West Dallas.
Yeah, it's such a nice woman.
Who'd you marry? Somebody from West Dallas.
Mary Jane Adams.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, she was real nice. But you know what he did? He'd go down and he bought all the kids these walkie-talkies one year.
Yeah.
And right after Christmas, the guy came and picked them up because he never paid for them. I mean, you know, he wasn't there big. Oh, he was. They had trouble. He was too good-hearted. Anything he had, he gave away, you know. And his kids didn't even have enough to eat. And then Joe Dawson bought the place and paid them off like that. But, you know, Joe Samaitsky was the section there. He says, honest to God, he says that Jack shouldn't complain because at least his kids were fed because every time they had a funeral, Joe Dawson would be right there, just, you know, paid so much on it, and give the wife so much, and their kids, you know, take care of them. And Joe said, they buried somebody.
They stopped at the bakery today, you know?
Yeah, it was a great.
We always stopped there after 10 o'clock. That's when we went to
Now, this is before your time. I don't intend to.
They didn't have a, that's right about,
He walked across the, Johnson.
but we had
Johnson, he said, they should bury Joe over there. And you know, here's the whole family there, and he didn't care what he said, but he Joe, and his wife and him wouldn't have anything. He could listen to Joe taking over the business. He had so much money, and I guess Joe was kind of paid up his debts, and then he left this on the corner of 8th and Davis Street, and he was so lazy, they lived up there, and they had this open stairway. Jack was too lazy to shovel off or sweep off the stove, and then when he used to get a kettle of boiling water and throw it down the steps to melt the snow, and then when that was free, it was all ice. Oh. Sure, my Aunt Mary and all them bought a refrigerator for $60, and I don't know what else that he was selling out. Because he had all these stuff that was so big because he had kind of a dishes. Then he had another girlfriend. He used to bring her over to our house. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm glad he came over there to our house. And he brought him over to see the Nowaks. He found his good friends, you know. But I mean, you couldn't help liking the guy. He had a wonderful personality. I never knew him. He was a real man. Yeah. Hey, and when he was sleeping, you wouldn't even think he was dead. He looked like he was sleeping. What he had? I don't know. Did he have a heart attack, huh?
Yes, he had heart trouble. He had heart surgery in, I think around Rockford, Illinois, where he was living.
And how old was he?
And he died.
Right now, he's Pushka's age.
Yeah, but
he was late 50s, 58, 59 or something like that.
Not only the cemetery in the section. Is this before your time? Have you ever heard of Donut?
Donor? Yeah, we got donor lobster.
No. This man was a sexton.
Oh, I don't know about that.
When we were little kids.
Oh.
I know it would be.
I know the only ones I know was Kukla, my mom used to say, some relative of his. My Kukla lived across the cemetery. He
took care of the
sexton, and then there was Frank Steinberg.
Yeah, well,
and
I think
now it's Glenn Steinberg.
Well, anyway, I suppose one of those took over after Donut. And those Donut used to live where we're here on 10th Street for the other B-Scoop Nowaks, remember?
No, I don't know that.
B-Scoop, is that Bismarck?
Yeah, Bismarck.
Bismarck, that was my mother's, let's see.
He was a Nowak. He was related to my mother, not related to
No, your aunt married a Bismarck.
Sammy?
Let's see.
Those other Nowaks, why did they call them Bismarck? The Nowaks on 10th Street. Why did he call them Bismarck?
Why was he called Bismarck?
One of the Hitchinsky girls married a Nowak, Bismarck. That's
I remember hearing that name.
Well, anyway, this donor lived near the Nowak.
Oh.
And I didn't know the girls. But then they moved away from Chicago, and then I moved away to Chicago. And we were old, and after I got married, we fell apart. My optometrist was Dr. Vogel. And the lady that was in his office, I think he's talking to her, we're talking something about where we're from and all that. And she was originally from Manistee, Michigan, and she lived in Wisconsin. I said, what was your name in Manistee? She says, Dora. Down Chicago. And I said, what did your father do? Was he accepted in the cemetery? She said, yes. And I told her I was a Nowak. Well, she said, Nowak? She said, we have Nowaks on our street. I said, no, I'm not those because I remember it. So I told her, I said, you must have gone to school with Sophie or Clara. Well, they moved away so long ago, she'd forgotten. But, you know, I see her today. She's at the seniors. Yeah, her daughter married my optometrist. Oh. And her daughter died just 2 years ago. She had liver trouble. She never drank, but she had arthritis, so that she was taking a lot of aspirin. Oh. And that aspirin hurt her liver. Oh. And she died with the after effects. And of course, this Mrs. Donor girl, her name is I can't think of it. But she married in Wisconsin. And we always used to talk, and I made an appointment, you know. She'd say, well, we're in Manistee. She was related to the Popkowski.
Oh, yeah, Popkowski.
And
Popkowskis are related to my
Bootlegs and Bootlegs.
I think Popkowski was my mother's godbrother.
And we used to talk about it, and she had a sister that lived in Belfast. Well, then when they were 65, because I wasn't 65 yet. So she retired, and her sister sold her house, and they went and lived in a Catholic, there's a nursing home. It's like a retirement home called Mays Lake. It's St. Joseph Seminary. Yeah. And I used to still see her at the senior center, and I still see her. You know, we go to theater and to show her. And I said, how's Miss Manistee? Oh, fine. She says, and how are you, Miss Manistee? Oh, and we talked that way. Yeah. She's older than I. She must be 80.
Must be really something when you find somebody that's the same way.
And then my doctor knows, you know, that I know Betty. He says, well, have you seen Betty? I said, I see her at the seniors. And then she told me one day, and you know, he remarried. And I said, well, Betty, how do you feel about it? Well, she said, she's a nice woman. She was a widow, too. She lost her husband. And of course, Dr. Vogel told me that when my eyes exam. But this last June, we got these glasses. So about a month ago, she met me. She said, she calls him the boss. She said, you know the boss? And his wife took me and bought me a nice new stuffed over a colonial chair for her birthday. Oh, you mean Dr. Vogel married again? Yeah. He told me that, and I got these glasses. When they lived on my street that I didn't know she was well, I didn't know what you do on the land. Very nice. I never had glasses from nobody but him. After that doctor on the south side of me.
Oh, yeah. I just, you know, this is just a small world, because I remember that one time we were in Milwaukee, and we went shopping, and this lady asked if I wanted to charge that, and I said, no, I don't have to charge something. Well, would you like to open one up? And I said, well, no, I'm not from Milwaukee. And she said, well, where are you from? And I said, Michigan. And she said, oh, Michigan. She says, he's too big a lot. And she says, what part of Michigan?
She lived in Michigan.
Well, wait, Manistee.
There was that.
She says, Manistee. I used to live in Manistee. And she gave me the name, Gunnarsson. Gunnarsson, Peruski, but I was Gunnarsson, so you live on the corner of 6th and Cypress Street? She says, yeah. And I said, well, that's where we live. And I can remember the name because we lived in this house, and my mother said something they heard. They slept downstairs, and we slept upstairs, and she could hear this rumble, and she said, Sally, get up. One of the kids must have fell down the steps. So we got up and nobody was there. And my mom said, who's she? You know, who? Yeah. And the next day we got the paper that told us Mr. Bennington died in Chicago. And this was his home. You know, and wow, and I thought, and we were all scared, you know. And she said, isn't that something? And, you know, so she just asked me where we were from, and we were living in her grandmother's house. So then Paul was real small, and then she said something to him, and I don't know if he knew, you know, he lived in Manistee. I can't remember how old he is. And she said, are you from Manistee too? He looked at her kind of dumb. He said, I don't know. All I know is I'm Catholic. I remember. Are you from Manistee too? And he said, I don't know. I don't think he even knew what Manistee was. He said, all I know is I'm Catholic. Oh, for goodness sake. I remember when he said that. But then we went to the grand store there shopping once. Or the other one. This lady. Not grand, it was not. It was a Beruski from she lived right around the corner. Yeah, from Grandpa's house. Yeah. They had a store with okay. Oh, you're no, this is the one on Randall Street. On Randall. And because now I don't know if she was good friends with Annie Greenwald. She was related to Snagowski. Yeah. And I don't know who this lady was, but she used to say, she'd look at me, she'd say, she's Sabarista. And I must have looked like Sabarista, and I don't even know who she was. So when we came to Grand Store, she was working there, and I don't know, she came and talked to me, she'd tell me who she was, and I didn't know, and then my mom told her. And I said, well, am I supposed to look like somebody because this Mrs. Smith used to take me to Chief Barista? Yeah, and I don't know who the mother of this lady was.
Well, Mrs. Snigowski was a Bruce guy.
Yeah, but they used to say that I looked like a barista, and I don't know how I look. You know, I didn't even know who this lady was. She said, I said, she's a barista. A regular barista.
How did your dad hear all this?
No, we don't see this in this. Did you hear this? I can't hear him.
I heard that because I said I'm silent. Well, that, yawning, you know. Tired or bored or...
You go to the chef.
He does?
She goes to Allison. And it seems like it's so loud that you put on with everybody else.
What is it?
You go to it.
Swallowed.
Oh, the whole time he gets it at home. And if we're in a car, you can hear that noise.
She always likes to back up against somebody, doesn't she?
Yeah.
I know it's nice. She's got room up ahead, but she wants to back up against me.
Oh, well, I think about 15 years.
You got a nice little friend there.
He's a nice guy.
You didn't talk to him?
No. He didn't bark, did he?
Oh, when come in, yeah. He barked at strangers. The mailman was a big company when he was on the report. They got that big overman, the mailman goes and places it back also and stay with it. Yeah, but this is a different mailman that wasn't coming. When my Social Security was supposed to come, and I thought, well, what the heck that? What's the matter? I can get my check. And then the next day, their check came. And it said dog on there, so he wouldn't come into the mailbox.
Oh. You always get it on the third too.
Yeah. But now Poston always comes in, you don't bother with any dog.
My mailman rings when he said my Social Security.
They really should do that, you know.
Well, Al, you should have direct deposit.
Oh, it's why I'm not that old.
What are we talking about?
When I get old,
Sometimes
then
you wonder. I don't like that.
No?
Because it's one treat
Well,
that we got there,
you know, a lot of
he's more
people-
trouble when it's supposed to.
They got it now down at work,
Yeah?
direct deposit. Whether you want it or not, it's mandatory.
Oh, is it?
Mandatory.
No, like where?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Well, I
didn't mean at work.
Actually, it is kind of convenient. You don't have to take your check to the bank
No.
and cash it. It's automatically in your checking account.
Yeah.
And then if you want to take some out of your checking account, put it in your savings or something like that, you can do it.
I got news for you. I don't like a lot of money in a checking account. Listen, why should that money be in a checking account? You don't get that.
Oh, well, that's it. Not that much.
I don't have a lot of money in a checking account.
I don't really have. that much.
Yeah, you don't mind if you got another name on it.
With a couple hundred, no.
Who wants that interest? Who wants that interest?
Who wants it?
Not that much, yeah, but if you just got so much money, and you're gonna take interest, now say like me, what's the sense of having a lot of money in the bank, that now when I go on my Social Security, and then you go on your taxes, and they deduct that, then they wanna know how much money you got in the bank, and you get less off on your taxes. Really? If you got a big amount.
Your widow.
I don't have that.
On a widow's
They don't have a
tax.
widow.
You're supposed to get off, you don't have it in Illinois?
They don't have it.
What you said just now, say it again.
Now, if I had a lot of money in a bank, and now I get Social Security, and then when we got a homestead tax.
I get a
Michigan.
too.
Well, that's it. Okay, when I have to go have this homestead tax taken, so if I'm getting a lot of interest, they ask how much interest you got. They deduct that from your homestead thing, and you're getting less. Now, if I didn't have any money in the bank, I'd be getting more money back on my homestead.
Our homestead don't work like that.
That's the way it does. Because I always went and had mine taken.
Up within a certain amount.
No, they always ask what it is, and they deduct it. And now last year I got more back because I had Michael under me, but now I don't have it, and I got less this year.
You're speaking of a grant. They call that a circuit breaker.
Just a homestead tax.
Well, I get a grant too, but this doesn't have anything to do with what.
Yes, it does. In Manistee it does. Because why would they ask how much money I got, and they want to know Michigan.
Because Manistee does not give you.
And you have to bring in your, like when you got income tax, and you have to hand in your interest. And when you go and they put that on your income tax. Now, I'm working at the rectory, so if I wasn't working at the rectory and didn't have to get a, what do you call that, George? W-2 form, then it wouldn't bother me. But now I have to put they want to know when I get to my bank, you got to put that all in. You have to put your interest.
Yes, definitely.
Well, I'm going to tell you what.
Anything over $200 or anything, if you get interest. If you get $100 interest.
2 weeks ago.
No, I guess it's over 200.
Show. It's at 200.
What's that?
Do you get it today?
Yeah, in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning.
$200
You get,
stock dividend.
Bob Wilcox and Jane Pony.
I watched that in the morning.
Well, maybe you heard this one. It was men from the Treasury Department and one man from the Savings and Loan.
I didn't have it on every day.
They were introduced, and they were talking back and forth and arguing. First, the treasury man said, too many people are cheating on the interest, monthly interest, on income tax returns. Well, the computers, of course, we should get them, but they don't. And now, it's in the making. This didn't happen yet, so don't get me wrong. And I hope it doesn't pass. But what they want to do is have the banks, the stock market, the savings and loans, take your 15% off of your interest, withholding that interest like you do your salary.
That must be what Don Shiley was telling me about. That's what he was saying. What's the sense of having money in the bank? That's what's the sense of having money in the bank. You save your own age, and then you got to pay your taxes. Yeah, that's what Don was telling me about.
And you still got to do that.
You're going to be paying tax on that.
You're getting along as big as you can and your money.
See, that's
And
what
they
Don
want
was
it
telling me.
for this welfare stuff. Why do they spend their money? That brings me up to, trying to get all kinds of taxes. But they're going there, they'll sell it to the foreign countries and they'll feed our whole country. All this money.
And even in Michigan now, really, with this ADC and all this, and then all these people come in, the senior citizens, a lot of them need the money. They have to pay out for, like this is, we have a friend that works at the Resco. And she said, my God, what some of these people, you get it back on some on Medicaid or Medicare or whatever, but not that much. And she says that some of those bills that they have to pay for their medicine and that some of them are in so much medication and that. But then these people now, when Ann was over here, she was working in babysitting, for, that's Paul's girlfriend, came over today and Mike's, and we were sitting and talking, and so she says, what the heck did she say she's working under something? She was working someplace else. I said, don't you babysit for this lady? And this girl had 3 kids. They moved here from Detroit. And she had 3 kids. She said, no, I quit working for her because she stayed out too late. And then if she'd come home right when she closed the tavern, but it would be 4 or 5 o'clock, so they made her quit that job. And so she moved here from Detroit. Okay, she gets 80 cents for her 3 kids. Now, and I was telling Ann, well, I met her sister at Dry Dock. Now, she's a bartender. She moved over here and she's living at Driftwood Village with her 1 kid. And I said, she married? And she says, no. So they all come in here from Detroit and collect ABC.
They had Paul Harvey talking about the good program they got.
So they're making it too easy for these kids, and our taxes are paying for them.
And that's why they had some.
And they pay their babysitters good money, and they stay out till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And they get everything paid for.
Oh, they had something about even like adoptions now. You can't adopt too many kids because all these young girls are keeping their money, keeping their babies because they're collecting ABC. And they think that they're better off that way than they think now. Actually, they just wonder that how are these kids going to be brought up because everything's going to be handed to them. And she says, and these kids aren't born out of love and they don't care for them, but it's just an income for them. Well, they divorced, and then the husband shows them. After they divorce, they have the babies, they collect ABC, the husband.
They don't even have husbands.
Oh, no, I know.
5 kids, Negroes. That's the way they let the kids went over the father, isn't it?
No. And they get
Well, who gets the food stamps?
They have them in high school.
Not some of these people are needed, it's just some of those young kids that they don't even want to go to work because you should get food stamps.
I'm not under Chicago.
And you know now, say if you can get laid off, you get laid off like the guys at Morton's were on strike. And so all Mike's friends went and got food stamps. When they live in apartments, you go and get food stamps. So Mike says, I'm going to go and see if I can get, he couldn't get food stamps because he was living with me. And he was 20 years old. So I'm supposed to support him. But he couldn't get because he was living with me. But if he would have been in his own apartment, if he would have been in an apartment, he would have gone it. So it's making it all easy for these kids, really. They don't want to work.
You know, another thing I don't understand is the head of household. That used to burn me up. If you're a head of a household, it means if you got your own apartment, you have to take care of all your work. And you don't get any more interest in who gets the head of the household. I can't.
The
head of the household, they have children. She's either a widow or a divorced.
Right.
And she's got children. She's the head of the household. That's why when they, you know, the banks, they raise their interest. All right.
It's all dropped now.
Now, last week now, if you would have bought those certificates, they're advertising, they're dropped.
They're dropping again now.
4% or something like that.
4%?
On those long term.
Yeah, but
You got 30,000 certificates.
6 months.
Some of them were.
Yeah, 6 months.
6 months, some were
and then they taxed
30 months. 2.5 years.
It all depends, it all depends.
Yeah. Well, we had that too, and I got myself, they want you to put, but you gotta be at least $10,000.
Yeah.
Then you get that high.
Sure, but when they were paying about 15 or 17% or something.
No, not that high now.
I thought that one time Sharon said.
13 something, almost 14.
Oh, no, it was more than that.
No, but this is what I look at it. All right, you put your money in and get that high interest.
It dropped out.
So what good is that high interest to
Maybe
you
12%.
when you have to report it to your government?
I know it, that's what I'm trying to say.
Well, the
Why have this?
The government wants to know what you have, and they,
You can't have to.
that's why,
Yeah, but it's a
you know,
price that's paid.
that's why, like they say too, you know, like,
That's why
don't, I was watching something on TV, and they were talking about deductions, you know, it was around before income tax time. And it said, you know, like, you can claim this and claim that, and he said, now this one guy said, and if you have a safety deposit box, you can claim that. But, he says, I don't know if it's wise, he says, for you to claim that, because if anything happens, etc., the government has a right you got that on your paper, that you
Why
got a
should
safety
you?
deposit box. The government
Go in there?
can get the bank and they say that they can say, we need this information. They have a right for the bank to, check
But you know,
if you have
this
anything.
was under the impression that Uncle
If they
Joe
don't,
had.
if they don't know that you don't
He
have a
had a
safety
safety
deposit,
deposit box,
you know.
and they didn't, he thought that nobody would go into that, only Pop, because he had a name on there. But he never knew that the bank, it was all stopped when you died.
Oh, sure.
The Alshinsky, people too.
It was the
They're-
French money after that.
Yeah, but not after.
We became it before Uncle Joe died.
But when he died, it was all stopped. You couldn't go into there. You can't go into that as
And we
safety
had
box.
kept it before because we figured, well, you know, if we don't want to be nosy, just I'm still living. But we had to wait, because I know.
And that was the same way that the Alshinsky's down there. Their uncle died, and he wanted to, he told these girls, and he had it in there, that some of the girls were going to get it, but he wasn't going to give it to some of his nieces or nephews or something like that. They came and asked you, remember, after that? And he was under the impression that